And she is Sunna Kaleem, a psychologist based in Glasgow, who has worked with both adults and children over a decade in providing counseling and mental health support and services. She has extensive counseling experience in spirituality and well-being, depression, anxiety and stress, trauma, and issues relating to minority groups, and many more psychological services. She is also the producer, director, and host of mental health series called Real Lives on TV. And she will be speaking about modern era and spirituality. Sana, please.
Thank you, Ravinder, and thank you for inviting, and great to see everyone, for those I can see, but also the attendees. It's been an absolute privilege. I'm just going to share my screen. What I wanted to cover is what is the essence and importance of spirituality in today's world? Because sometimes what people or maybe what I have observed, I don't know if somebody else has observed that, but people sometimes are very reluctant in mentioning spirituality or talking about, their beliefs or gods, or maybe it might be a controversial topic or something very heated. But let's get to know the importance of why spirituality is important in our lives. What part does it play? Why has it been, for thousands and thousands of years? So kind of making sense of the impact that has on us, others, and then the world at large. So getting to understand that. So I only have 15 minutes. So I'll try and do as much as I possibly can and do a bit more justice to this. Okay. Let me just put this one here. Okay, so basically spirituality is defined by different peoples in different ways, but majority of the people say that it's basically searching your purpose of life. Okay, it gives you a sense of direction, a structure, and pursuing towards something bigger than ourselves, which is what is kind of one of the most fundamental things in spirituality, is that there is a sense of belief that there's a higher power, energy, or God, or you can call it different things, but that's what spiritual journey is seeking to go beyond what we know as. Again, trying to connect with something bigger than ourselves, and what is our purpose in this world, and what part we play, or rather how we like to lead our lives. What is important to us. The spirituality gives us a direction we'd like to lead our lives in. For example, one of the facts about life is death, right? When we think about death, it brings to our forefront, that how would we like to lead our lives that's important to us, that's meaningful to us because of the limitation of life in itself. And that's when you're connecting in with spirituality. And yeah, in terms of counseling and experience, I have also noticed that people who maybe haven't delved deeper into their own spiritual meaning and understanding, they struggle a lot in trying to make sense of different aspects of their suffering and death and life and so on and so forth. There's a lot more struggle in that. Here's my own personal perception about spirituality. So think of it as your armor, right? This gives you the right armor to, face the adversities in life, the ups and downs, our own personal growth and understanding of ourselves, others, and the world. Again, it's a kind of a form of a shield of protection against all kinds of things that we might be confronted with. So really, important to understand that it acts as a shield and a barrier to protect us from a lot of harm. Okay, be it seen harm or unseen harms. I will explain that a little bit more just shortly. Okay, moving on. Like basically spirituality in the modern era, what does it do to us? It gives us, basically, as I mentioned before, a structure. Imagine this life or the world without having any kinds of ethics or morals or principles. And just as a small example, if there is no traffic lights on the roads, you can imagine the amount of accidents that are going to happen, right? So we need that kind of structure. If you look at the structure of our health system or politics or countries, or, there is a structure in place for us to follow, even justice, or, and so on and so forth. In the absence of structure, things are all over the place. It's really chaotic, and there is a less understanding of what's right and wrong and how it should be, and so on and so forth. So basically, spirituality gives us that sense of direction, but also building our own personal subjective values and ethics and morals, and so on and so forth. Um, it has endless amounts of benefits. I could just emphasize on that. There is research which I will just kindly touch upon, because I've only got a very short space of time, but I will try and go over it as much as I possibly can. But it really basically promotes to reach our full potential as human beings, to constantly evolve, constantly learn. Every time, if you can imagine, you're being through a suffering, and when you look back and reflect on it, you know what? I actually learned a lot from that experience. It's made me a stronger person. Yes, it was painful at the time, but it does teach you many things when we do reflect back. So spirituality is all about accessing all that that's within ourselves, and constantly nurturing and growing it. If you don't nurture and grow it, there is an impact on our lives in all kinds of different realms of our well-being, which is also scientifically researched as well. So it gives us a sense of peace, wholeness, and balance amongst our physical, emotional, social, and spiritual aspects of our lives. And if you can imagine, spirituality as being one of the most fundamental aspects of our well-being. Okay. Next one is, I'm not going to go into kind of details in it. It's there. You guys can have a read about it. How can we kind of enhance that spirituality? Now, spirituality doesn't mean that, you follow a certain religion. It can, of course, but there are people who maybe don't follow religion, who maybe don't believe in a religion. So it's different ways of finding your sense of meaning and purpose of life. People find on different kind of, retreats or ritual things that they like to do, or even yoga, tai chi, reading scriptures, contemplating, reflection, appreciating, gratitude, all those kind of, focusing on relationships, friendships, or, family, friends, societies, and so on and so forth. Something we're doing right now as we speak. So this is us kind of our spiritual meeting, if you choose to perceive it that way. It's a choice you make. Okay, very, very important. It's the intention. Okay, which sometimes we, forget to focus on that. So even, for example, if I am sitting here, so I'm sitting here, delivering this wonderful lecture to wonderful people, and I could either just do it as my career, or, maybe not put that much meaning or purpose into it. But if I do it with the intention of it's going to spiritually enhance me as well as help others, and so on, so forth, it's giving me a more enriched experience. Okay, it's giving me a more meaningful purpose, and it's helping me, as well as people can pick up on those vibes. Yeah, I really resonated with that, and so on and so forth. So your intention is very important in when you do things. So even if it's small things, a reflection, but do it with the intention of enhancing your spiritual growth, it will work. Okay. I've lost there we go. So some of the spiritual skills people tend to develop, again, This personal quote there, it's kind of in a nutshell what you begin with. You begin by serving your own needs. Obviously, there's a whole lot of science behind it, or psychology behind it, with the ego and so on and so forth. Then, your journey takes you to serving the needs of other people. So there's less kind of diminishing that sense of I. And then you end by serving the needs of the whole. So basically, when you reach that a greater sense of spirituality, or the way I interpret it, this is my own personal interpretation, that in spirituality, there hardly exists the concept of I, because you are thinking about greater purposes. Okay, it begins off with that. Obviously, it's a journey you go through. You don't get to the end product just like that. So it's a whole journey, but the final product is something much more grand, something much more bigger, something much more meaningful and enriched. And that's what we're all trying to strive towards, is, finding that sense of being in existence and purposeful life. Some of the things that people who are on greater spiritual paths, they tend to, again, find lots of meanings behind their sufferings, a greater sense of patience and resilience, and, you know, uh, less so feeling drained, but because they're connecting with their spiritual, or rather energy, they've got a lot of energy to give and feel less depleted themselves, which is just phenomenal. I mean, science is still trying to discover what happens to a human being, and it's got lots of impacts on the human body as well, which I will just kind of touch upon, because I know that some of our wonderful presenters are going to be touching upon that a bit more. Um, let me just. Okay. So one of the things that happens is that our brain goes into the alpha state, right? When we are spiritually connected, either with prayers or reading a scripture or mindfulness or reflection and things like that. Now, the alpha state is where, scientists say that it's the right brain activity, or subjected to kind of senses of imagination, creativity, memory, intuitions, and things like that. Something, that's really, really is important in how we function as human beings. Okay, so again, so it's got lots of science behind it, and I am just touching on the surface here. And the spirituality has lots of impact on our body and mind. The mind begins to develop and grow. Okay, physically, so not just psychologically or emotionally and things. And obviously, if the mind is growing stronger, it's going to have the relevant impact on our body, the way we see and existence, and so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, I've kind of summarized all of that into 4 realms of our being. The first one is the psychological realm. This is all backed up by science, and they're constantly, discovering new things of the importance of spirituality in our world in the modern era. The psychological kind of well-being, is that improves spirituality, helps us to improve our resilience, our confidence, our a better self-control, reducing anxiety, stress, finding, choosing positive perceptions over negative ones. Again, I could be saying, well, everybody's silent, maybe, they're thinking something else, or they maybe don't like my presentation or something like that. Now, that's my negative perception, right? And I could get upset or feel anxious or something else, right? So what I'm doing here is that my negative thoughts is impacting my perception, right? I'm allowing that to happen without even realizing, without knowing that I have a choice, right? as soon as you become aware of the spiritual, begin to understand the power you hold as an individual over your mind, and your choices that you have in the moments as you experience life. Okay, now I could switch that negative thought into something positive by thinking maybe everybody's listening intently and I'm doing great. So either I can break my confidence or enhance my confidence. The choice is mine. It's the choices that I choose to make. And my spiritual kind of understanding and growth will encourage that every word that I speak, I hope it benefits people and it enhances my own understanding about myself and others in the world. So I'm doing it with that intention. That will constantly give that little bit of a push behind my every thought, and as I experience these moments. So again, the spiritual realm is, if you look at all of these different realms of our well-being, the spiritual realm is actually the one that's guiding all of these. Okay. So, for example, what we believe of our physical understanding, or social or psychological, is all fueled by our spiritual kind of understanding of all these different aspects. Do we need to take care of our body? Do we need to take care of the environment? Do we need to take care of, all these different structures that I spoke about, the morals and principles? For example, we're less likely to make, or maybe uh, agree with a person who's maybe a mass murderer because of our principles and ethics, right? Or even find a job that might go against our principles, or do an action or an act that might go against it. So the spiritual realm is actually feeding everything, or controlling, or directing all of these different realms. Again, enhancing our spirituality, rather. It helps with our thought processes as well, makes them much more clear. We're in a better state of making life decisions, or having more self-control. Again, it's an optimal level of achieving psychological functioning. Okay. Physical, again, it's the environment as well as the body. There's lots of science and research being done, for example, with cancer patients, people with faith compared to people with non-faith, and their recovery processes. They've discovered that people with faith, they have better long-term recovery processes and less chances of the cancer coming back compared to the other group. So again, there's lots of benefits in our bodies and healing processes as well. Plus, it boosts our immune systems. There's more connections that get developed in the brain because you're connecting yourself with the alpha state, and so more the physical change of the mind in itself, as I said, growth in the cortex and the gray matter in our brains. Again, it kind of develops our existence and our brains as well, and how we function as human beings. Again, the social realms, we're connecting with people, improving our social relationships, including with our loved ones in our household, family, friends, societies, and so on and so forth, which also includes our occupational well-being, that we're more likely to, find jobs, or at least go towards them, that gives us a sense of meaning and purpose, and so on and so forth. So that's quite important to connect with. So lastly, on a positive note, I kind of like these quotations, is that we are human beings having a spiritual experience. I think Pierre said we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, which I thought was very, very interesting, because that's what we, in essence, we are, as spiritual. And if we don't nurture that, just like what that little quotation says, deep within your soul is a door that opens into a world of wonders. Open the door and let the magic in. It's a choice you make. So again, why not make better choices for ourselves? So again, I'd like to personally thank everyone for this wonderful opportunity. I hope you enjoyed the presentations, and thank you, everyone.